All right, so I know I recently saw Game Night. I know you haven't seen it yet.
Nope.
I would say funny movie.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't put it on the same level as like Bridesmaids or an Anchorman, but definitely better than Central Intelligence.
And there's been a lot of bad comedies recently.
There have been a lot of bad comedies lately, and I would say I give this movie a solid B+. It knew what it wanted to be.
Yeah.
It shot for it. It sometimes battled between plot, story, and being funny.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever misfired, ever. The end had some really funny scenes. And I thought it was kind of unique to combine a little bit of horror, not horror, but a little bit of suspense, action, and comedy kind of all into one, because if you have a comedy movie, it's easy.
Yeah.
If you have an action movie, it's easy.
Yeah.
But they're trying to kind of balance and fluctuate back and forth between like a story that you kind of care about with characters that you really appreciate and relate with.
Yeah.
But I thought that, what's her name? She's the girl from Red Eye and from Mean Girls. She's gorgeous. Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams kills this movie. Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Did a great job too. I mean, they were a very funny match. They played a very cute married couple. And then one of those supporting characters is just to die for hilarious.
Which one is it? Is it
The cop. The next door neighbor.
Which one's that one?
He's the guy from Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad.
Because in the trailers, there's one that's the kind of the guy that's more clueless. He's like really funny in the trailers.
If you haven't seen it, I'll
Yeah.
show you after. But good movie, B+. If you're looking for a good time, it's definitely worth it. Great date movie if you're like in a relationship, because it's about a couple,
Yeah.
going through life.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really good, really funny. Also, I recently saw Maze Runner. Finally rounded out the trilogy. Have you seen Maze Runner?
Not yet, because I was going to go see it, but they already dropped it from the theater next to me, so... Like
fast?
early, yeah.
Wow.
So I couldn't get to see it, which... whatever, Redbox.
My only issue with the Maze Runner series is I don't understand what is up with the zombies. Are they zombies or are they not zombies? Because it's not very clear, because we didn't have zombies in the first movie. Kind of had zombies in the second movie. And then in the third one, we have infected people, non-infected people, and then zombies, and then people who are infected but not zombies. And it just kind of, for me, it just gets lost in translation. I don't really know who's fighting who.
Yeah.
And somebody's looking for a cure, but I'm not sure what the cure's for, because there are people who are infected who aren't sick. So technically...
You're not going to, like...
Right?
Interesting. I haven't seen any of the Maze Runner movies, but I've kind of followed on people's reviews of it.
I'm not sure what the story is, and even after watching the third movie, I'm still not quite sure.
Yeah.
But
rate your favorite of the three.
First, because that's the only one with an actual maze.
Hey.
I mean, and the first one had a really cool premise.
Yeah.
After that, for me, it just kind of spiraled out of control without going in a specific direction. And maybe that was just movies. Maybe that was just them not adapting the books very, very well.
Yeah.
And then just like things like, oh, this is Wicked. It's a good company. Okay, what normal person is going to name a good company Wicked? Like, guys, like, come on.
Yeah.
It was interesting though.
I wonder. So now that this trilogy of movies is over, I don't think we have the next apparent heir of Hunger Games-esque movies.
Hunger Game, Twilight, Breaking Dawn saga. Like, what's the next young adult fiction trilogy?
Which is, it's fine with me, but like, yeah, I don't know what the next one's going to be.
I swear I heard that they were making an Artemis Fowl movie.
Oh, of course. And I feel like that would be the type of thing. The
Because
thing you read in middle school.
I loved those so much. And we already have a series of unfortunate events on Netflix, thankfully, which I believe season 2 is coming out this month.
Oh.
Let me see if they're making an Artemis Fowl movie. Artemis Fowl movie. I swear this was in production. I'm not sure if it... And it's released August 9th, 2019.
Oh, so...
Oh, the director's Kenneth Branagh.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting. For those of you who don't know, Kenneth Branagh plays What's-His-Bucket in the second Harry Potter.
The one who,
fake...
oblivious, like he gets rid of his own memory.
Yes. He's a Northern Irish actor, director, producer, and screenwriter, originally from Belfast.
He just recently, I guess, Dunkirk. He played a part in Dunkirk. You don't know anyone's names in Dunkirk, so it doesn't
Which
matter.
honestly, I love that Dunkirk didn't do that.
Yeah.
It pulled me so much into the movie.
He also plays Hercule Poirot or whatever in.
He was Commander Bolton in Dunkirk.
Yeah.
He was Hercule Poirot in Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes, Murder on the Orient Express. He's the detective.
He was also in the 2013 Macbeth.
Yeah. If you know him, like I like his style. He's like an Ewan McGregor kind of guy where I like.
He is. He's a little bit of a older uncle type.
Yes.
Older uncle, British uncle.
Yeah.
Honestly, I loved the Artemis Fowl books growing up.
Yeah.
So much. Let me see who's in it because I haven't heard anything about this yet. Wow. Okay. Did you ever read the books?
I read the first one. Can't remember anything about it. But here's the thing. It's, you know how these other movies, unknown director really sometimes.
Yeah.
Cast kind of unknown.
So
Just telling me that Kenneth Branagh's in
That's the director?
director's chair.
here are the confirmed cast members.
Okay.
Judi Dench as Commander Root. Josh Gad as Mulch Diggums.
Wait, hold up. So those are
I know,
for
right?
Murder on the Orient Express. That's already.
That's actually kind of funny. Laura McDonnell, Commander Holly. Okay, yeah, she fits. She would be a good Commander Holly.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, shout out to Artemis Fowl with like it's not a fairy tale, but it's like a modern take on like magical creatures.
Yeah. That'd be
With
interesting.
like guns.
I'm excited about it. So next year they got a lot of time to. They got a lot of production time.
Got a lot of
That's
time,
good.
and it's coming out in August. That's a good
Yeah.
release date.
Well, and that's also a really big key of it could be a good movie is that they let you know beforehand. You know, they have a lot of time to work on it. A lot of times there's, you know, those movies where they just don't tell you much about it until it's like coming out this year. It's like, oh, well, this is good. That's good news.
I'm so excited. I love
Yeah.
these books.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So I guess that's some of the young adult trilogy because there's at least like 5 of those books.
Yeah. I want them to do an Animorphs movie.
That would be weird. I feel like that says Netflix written all over it.
Yeah. It's like the weird horror.
Like, hey, Netflix, spend some of your $6 billion on content on a, Animorphs,
Yeah.
Stranger Things kind of version.
Well, speaking about Netflix, I'm just going to go over real quick one movie that I saw this week, probably like a 3-minute recap.
Okay.
The Ritual. I heard a lot of people talking about this being a good Netflix horror movie, straight to Netflix.
Okay.
It's generally, what it's about is a couple of friends decide to take a backpacking trip in Sweden. And one of them rolls their ankle, of course, or breaks their ankle or knee. And they're like, well, if we just cut through this forest, we can make it back to those lights that we saw the other night. And so they go on their journey into this forest and realize that those lights that they saw may not have been what they wanted to go towards, but they don't know that until it's too late. So without spoiling anything, I will say it's a good Netflix horror movie. It would have been good released in theaters, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's that, and sometimes with Netflix, you don't know. It would have been good enough to release in theaters. I don't know how much money it would have made, but if they would have done kind of the deal like Annihilation, like in theaters for a bit and then in Netflix, good. Real cool themes of guilt, I guess I would say. I'm liking these horror movies where they're adding in human emotion and stuff like Lights Out, you know, like depression and whatever. It's real interesting to me. This one, yeah, real cool. I will say the monster in the movie is very Lovecraftian again, where you don't understand what you're looking at. It's just you don't even want to be anywhere near it. So,
Which I think is the right way to do it.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, there's like the two arguments. There's like I believe it is Martin Scorsese opinion, where if you're going to have suspense, it's more suspenseful if the audience can see the ticking bomb under the table versus just a bomb exploding.
yeah,
However, having seen Annihilation, part of what made the movie so scary is you didn't know what you were looking at.
yeah,
And I feel like having seen Dunkirk, that also really kind of brought home the realism, is I watched a 2.5-hour movie about war, and I didn't know anybody's names, and that made me feel like I was more actually in the story than in like Saving Private Ryan.
Or like in Dunkirk again, they're getting shot by soldiers. You never get to see any of the soldiers.
Or their faces. You just know that, like, it's danger.
You just know that they're getting shot at. And, like, when you're in war like that, I don't think you're... Half the time you can't see. I've watched some documentaries. They just, you don't know where it's coming from. You're just hiding and shooting back.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so I feel like you could do either way, but I feel like if it's a monster, it's scary if you don't know the monster.
Yeah.
Unless the monster is like a human and knowing how dangerous he is, if that adds to the level of scary, then I feel like it kind of depends on like what type of scary you're going for.
Yeah. And in a non-spoiler way, I will say the monster in the ritual is a mix between, you think, demonic witchcraft, but then all of a sudden they bring it into Nordic lore and Thor and Loki and all that stuff. So it's real interesting the way they make it in like a modern day setting. So I will say, basically, I'd say go see it. Go see it if you have Netflix.
So speaking of Netflix, there has been a couple movies released recently on Netflix that have caught quite a lot of attention. First, there was Bright with Will Smith, directed by David Ayer,
maybe not the best
Suicide
attention.
Squad. And then right now, The Outsider, starring Jared Leto, focusing on a Yakuza thriller. So have you seen either of those?
No.
So I have seen Bright, and I'm about to see The Outsider because I am a very large 30 Seconds to Mars fan.
Yeah.
Jared Leto can do no wrong for me. He's great, and for the record, he does have an Oscar. So for all those hating, he does have an Oscar. And he's in Fight Club. Like, Fight Club and Oscar, like, your movie.
How old is he?
He's like mid-40s. He doesn't age. He's a
I knew
vampire.
nothing about him until before Suicide Squad, so obviously...
Oh, that's our hour timer.
Oh.
Okay. That's cool.
That's good. We can splice in whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you want to keep going, or?
No, I'm not. Yeah, let's keep going. So yeah, I saw Bright. It was not as bad as I thought it would be. The production quality was very well done.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, kind of like Suicide Squad. Everything looked really good. Nothing was like bad CGI, and it was kind of cool, like seeing like orcs and everything live together and like driving through downtown LA. Like visually, the film looked great. Even the action sequences with like stuff blowing up looked great. The story was just kind of lacking, and I think this is just David Ayer.
Well, cast was good, right?
Casting was great.
Joel Edgerton, I love Joel Edgerton.
And he I didn't even know it was Joel Edgerton playing like a baffable orc. Will Smith was the Will Smith that everybody knows.
Yeah.
It was like, I feel like if it were a TV show, it would have been amazing. But it just needed a better storyline with characters we could relate to.
Yeah.
It was just like this crazy story that was just happening so fast that you didn't really have time to learn about your characters yet before stuff started happening to them. And then it just ended and you're like, what did I just watch?
Do you think it would have been a better TV show?
Absolutely, 100%.
That's what I get from a lot of these, that it's real ambitious, it sounds real ambitious, like the story, the trailer when that came out.
Yeah.
Just like, what is this? Like, it looks real interesting. I feel like sometimes
It's
you
too
want
ambitious.
to make a movie, and if it's too ambitious, it's almost...
They have to cut corners.
Yeah.
In the story. And if your story's too ambitious where you can't cut corners, turn it into a TV show or don't make the movie. And people were hating on Bright because it was just like, if I would have seen that in theaters, I would have been really mad because like and it wasn't like it was a bad story. It was just there was so much missing information. Yet at the same time, it was such a cool world. And unfortunately, it was not as bad as Suicide Squad. I don't think you can get worse than Suicide Squad. But it wasn't far off.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a director, your main goal is to tell a story. You're the storyteller. And if the story fails, whether that's the writers or the screenwriters or the screenplay writers or anything else, the director's job is to make sure that the story that's trying to be told is conveyed.
Hasn't David Ayer been kind of like mediocre recently?
He did Suicide Squad, so not to...
Oh, yeah, okay.
But yeah, he did Suicide Squad.
And then, I can't remember, he probably did some X-Men before or something. No, I can't remember. But I haven't been seeing anything too special out of David Ayer recently.
I mean, he's done a couple of cool things. Like he did Night's Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal. That got a lot of praise. Cop movie. But you just have to write a good story. And transitioning into The Outsider, I haven't yet seen it, but a lot of people were really, really kind of complaining on it. I know Thrillist.com called it a disaster. IndieWire gave it a 1.5 stars out of 5. So we'll have to see how that one turns out.
Yeah.
But I will say, shout out to Netflix for winning an Academy Award for Icarus.
Is that Jason Bateman?
No. That was the
Ozark.
Russia. Yeah, Ozark Shape, basically.
Okay.
Icarus is the Russia doping investigation documentary. And so, let's see, where is it? Yeah, Best Documentary Feature, Icarus by Brian Fogel and Dan Kogan for Netflix, won an Academy Award. Netflix has won an Academy Award. Can you believe that?
This is probably the best time, movie-wise, to be around, I think, as a consumer, as someone who loves movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look, we're having streaming services making good movies, good moves,
Yeah.
good biopics, enough to get the attention from the Academy. This is a cool. I guess it's a cool time. It's a transitionary period between more options, and I think that's really cool. Like,
If I put you up to it
uh-huh.
and you had to decide between the two, what is currently providing consumers with better content? The silver screen or the TV screen?
Oh, you know when you watch a TV series and you're so into it and it gives you more than, 2 hours? It's hard to fight that. It's hard to fight that feeling that you get from watching a whole series of a TV show that you just loved and you just can't wait for the next one. I feel like I have more anticipation for second seasons of TV shows than sequels, a lot of times for movies. And more content, I think, content-wise, there's way more TV, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon stuff available than movie. At least in my opinion.
Okay. But as far as quality, who gives us the best quality right now? TV or movies?
Per swing, movies, I'm thinking. I don't know. That's a tough one.
I would say hands down TV. I fully buy into the fact that we're into the golden age of television between Game of Thrones, The Handmaid's Tale, Breaking Bad, Battlestar Galactica. I know that was 2004 and 2006, but I will argue with anybody. Battlestar Galactica is amazing television. Yeah. To HBO, I mean, Shameless, Billions, Homeland.
You know what, let me revise what I'm saying.
And I see what you're saying. You're saying like per entry,
yeah,
the quality is higher for movies. And I tentatively would say like I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You're saying like they're able to execute more, but there are still a ton of bad movies that come out. We just don't see the bad movies.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Like people watch bad TV.
Bad movies still come out because it's someone's passion project. It's somebody greenlights
I disagree.
it.
I feel like
someone has enough money
trying to make money.
Exactly. But sometimes someone's passion project is not good, and it gets made anyway because they push hard enough. TV is, no one's going to waste time on a crappy show, so I think it's a better weeding out of...
ABC?
I think it's a better weeding out of crappy content so that the best stuff rises to the top. I'm kind of seeing your way now with this. Nothing is... Watching a terrible movie, you feel like... It sucks because maybe you paid money or you go invest this time in. Mm-hmm. On a first or second episode of a TV show, it's easier to drop and be like, I hated that. I'm never going to go back to it.
Sure.
I feel like it's less of a commitment. So
I don't know. I feel like for me, we're getting so much good content and quality out of TV shows that I'll watch a series that is 8-10 episodes long. And for me, it is better writing, better storytelling, better cinematography, better directing and special effects in 10 hours than it is in one movie.
Yeah, I completely agree with. There's just
like Altered Carbon. Yes, there's a lot of nudity, but I absolutely loved Altered Carbon. I thought it was so cool. The world that they built, the things that they did, the action, the storyline, the build-up. Yeah,
and honestly, with TV, you can pay the right respects to whatever source material you're using.
A series of unfortunate events, the movie with Jim Carrey, versus a series of unfortunate events, Netflix. One of them completely missed the actual tone, and the other one is perfectly, exactly the story that we all grew up reading. Yeah. And surprisingly, they're shot very similarly.
But it's flushed out.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say necessarily the time that the show actually takes. I feel like it's the time that people put into the show.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the difference between movies and TV, is you only produce a show once you finish filming it, at least the pilot or the full series.
Yeah.
Give it to your distribution network and say, hey, this is what we want to do. Do you like it? And if they say yes, you film the whole thing, and then you produce it.
Yeah.
And you don't release it until it's produced.
Yeah.
So you can spend as long as you want producing it. Versus a TV show or a movie, it's okay, we have this movie idea, okay, when are we going to make it come out? And it's like, well, I don't know. Why don't you give us the plenty amount of time to do the pre-production?
Yeah.
And I feel like to greenlight a movie, you have to set a release date.
The shorter turnaround is great, I think, for TV stuff. From announcement to release. I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, as far as like we're announcing the show that we'll be starting?
Well, business model of Netflix and of TV is, I think, it's more exciting for the consumer, I guess, not having to wait forever.
But that's because they essentially make it before they announce it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of, I hate hearing there's a good movie coming out, but it's like
hearing Suicide Squad or Justice League or Batman versus Superman for years on end, and it comes out and it's a heaping pile of crap.
Yeah, all of that excitement you had building, just whatever.
Yeah. Justice League, heaping pile of crap.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, so...
You're not wasting very much by not watching it.
I've been waiting for it to be cheap. But... Oh, okay, so what... Speaking about Academy stuff...
Yes, I have the full list of nominees up.
Yes, let's talk about the Oscars real quick.
Okay. Speaking of, so let me just read out Best Picture, and then you can tell me which ones you've seen.
Okay.
Call Me By Your Name.
Did not see.
Darkest Hour.
Wanted to see, haven't gotten around to it.
Same. My roommates and I were like, should we watch it? And then we were just kind of like, we know he'll probably win for it.
Like, I like Gary Oldman a lot.
But we just don't want to watch it because it looks like the boring version of Dunkirk.
And we just watched Dunkirk, and so it's like...
Right? We kind of already know the story.
Yeah.
Get Out.
I liked Get Out a lot.
I still haven't seen it. I need to. I've heard great things.
Oh, it was good.
Lady Bird.
Did not see.
Phantom Thread.
Did not see.
The Post.
I liked The Post a lot.
Really?
I don't know if it... I haven't seen these other ones. Well, I saw The Post this year. I forgot about it already. No, not this year. I saw it last year.
Which is weird. It's a Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep. You think it would be, like, cemented into, like, cinema history.
Yeah. I'd say it was good, but recently coming off Annihilation, I don't think it was as good as Annihilation.
Interesting. Shape of Water.
I did not see that one.
Are you kind of grossed out by that one?
Yeah, when I saw the trailers, I was just like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure it's got a cool story, but, like... It's like The Greatest Showman. I can see from a trailer sometimes what I don't care about.
Yeah. Did we talk about The Greatest Showman last podcast?
I don't know. I think we did probably a little bit. Did you watch it?
I saw Greatest Showman.
What'd you think?
Oh man.
Ham-fisted?
I want to give it a C+.
Yeah.
Because they just got so many things wrong. Yeah, Shape of Water, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I already watched both of the Hellboy movies that were done by Guillermo del Toro that I'm seeing this, and I'm like, it's literally one of the characters from Hellboy.
Right?
Like, he looks
I saw
exactly
some side-by-side
the same.
pictures, and...
Like, his hand, like, it's almost the identical character. I mean, like, now it's just some deaf or mute woman who is the janitor who falls in love with him and also has sex with him during a shower scene. Kind of gross. And it's just shot in this very, like, dark, grungy, that I'm just kind of like, there's some movies that you're excited to see, and some movies like Changeling, that's about like a kid being kidnapped and a serial killer, and like directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Angelina Jolie. That's like, this doesn't look like an uplifting movie, but it's still like a passion movie that like that really makes you feel something, and like it's entertaining to watch. And for some reason, like Shape of Water, I don't know if it's like the eerie soundtrack or just like the story, but it's like, I just don't have any desire to watch The Shape of Water.
And there's some movies that I love that are based on like human emotion. It looks deeper inside of a person's behavior and whatever. But when it's packaged in a way that I just don't find appealing.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem appealing for some reason. It looks like it's well done, but it's just like, I feel like if I watch it, I'll be getting bored and being like, I really wish I would have watched something else.
Yeah.
So
that's
okay. And then 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Haven't seen it, want to though.
Same. My roommates and I, we've been trying to see it. It's the only showings we can find are like noon and 8 p.m. and it just hasn't fit our schedules.
Yeah.
So I know that for lead actress, Frances McDormand won. Congratulations.
Was she the one in Argo or Fargo?
Yeah. Yep. She's like the kind of.
She has that look about her.
The kind of bad A hard ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did a great job. I swear Gary Oldman won for Darkest Hour. The one thing, did you ever see anything about that Roman J. Israel Esquired by Denzel Washington?
No. I didn't even hear about it until I saw a picture. I was like, when did this come out?
Yeah, I was in one movie theater, and that came up as a trailer, and I was like, I haven't seen anything about this online. I haven't heard anybody talking about it. That kind of came out of nowhere.
So, I mean, we're going to keep going with this, but
Yeah.
a lot of this has to do with what we're going to talk about after about the Oscars and it being the lowest rated year.
And I
ever.
feel like that was for a couple reasons. So just to review, as far as Best Picture, The Shape of Water won. Also, it was nominated for a combined 13 nominations. For lead actor, we had Gary Oldman winning Darkest Hour, about not Will Chamberlain. Winston Churchill.
Yes.
Winston Churchill during the decisive moments of World War II. For lead actress, we had Frances McDormand in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, about a mother who fights to avenge her daughter's death and find the killer and forces the hand of the local police force.
Ooh.
For supporting actor, we had, I believe we had Sam Rockwell from 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri as well.
I like Sam Rockwell.
You know,
he's an anomaly. He's very different from other,
he's kind of a character actor. He kind of plays the same guy in every movie, whether it's Moon or this, but he's enjoyable to watch every time.
It's a personality. Like, you go for personality. He reminds me of the guy who's in District 9. He was the main guy in District 9.
Ah, yes.
He reminds those are 2 actors that they'll show up in things.
Yeah.
And I just love them as a person, so whatever they do, it's just funny.
For supporting actress, we had Allison Janney from I, Tonya. Tanya. My friends make fun of me. I always mispronounce that, but it's spelled Tony.
Yeah.
So I think it's I, Tonya. I loved I, Tonya. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Do you think that's deserving? Who was the...
Allison Janney played the mom.
Okay.
And I think Allison Janney, it was such a transformation role for her.
Yeah.
She did a great job. For director, unfortunately, Christopher Nolan, fan favorite, did not win for Dunkirk, although Dunkirk was beautifully directed. Wasn't a crazy fan about the time jumping.
Really?
I mean...
Well, I guess because you don't know what's happening, why it's time jumping until, like... You kind of have to watch a review after and be like, oh, that's what they were doing.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I didn't know what was going on and why we were jumping until halfway through. But Guillermo del Toro did win for directing The Shape of Water, I believe. Or was it Jordan Peele? Crap. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, because, Jordan Peele won something. Was it...
All right, I should probably just look up the full list of winners.
By the way, I think it's awesome that Jordan Peele won something, being the first time he's ever... I wonder if it's because he came at it with a fresh new directing stance, I guess. I don't know.
So, what were we talking about? Best director?
Yeah.
I was right. Guillermo del Toro, Shape of Water. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Supporting actress, we did that one. Foreign language film. I don't want to say it's not relevant, but it's not relevant.
Yeah.
Musical score, Shape of Water. Best original song, Remember Me.
Coco?
From Coco.
I like that one.
Best animated feature, Coco. We already previously mentioned Best documentary, Icarus from Netflix. Best original screenplay, Jordan Peele won for screenplay for Get Out.
Cool.
I'm so happy that Roger Deakins won for Best Cinematography for Blade Runner 2049. That movie was so beautiful, and Roger Deakins is a classic. He did the original Blade Runner. He did Sicario. He is a visionary cinematographer.
And there was a lot of, I'm going to say there's a lot of good cinematography this past year.
Oh, yeah.
Like Dunkirk too. But Blade Runner, it's very unique, and it there's a history. And
I mean, if you've seen that movie, there's so many scenes you're just like, I could put this movie on mute, and it would still be
beautiful.
Beautiful. Let's see. Best visual effects, Blade Runner 2049. Very happy about that. The ones that I thought was really surprising was film editing and best sound mixing. It's listing best sound mixing like 3 times, but it's fine. Went to Dunkirk, and I was very happy with this because you saw Dunkirk in theaters, right?
Yeah, and half of the reason why I loved it so much was because of the sound.
Was it not the loudest movie you'd have ever seen in a movie theater?
When a plane flew over, that it felt like I was there.
Yes,
So
it
when
was
it flies
so
over your head-
excruciatingly loud.
And it's the realism. It's the realism of the moment and what happened, and just like I think one of the survivors of Dunkirk watched it and was just like, this is terrifyingly real.
Yeah. I saw a couple cool articles about how Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan specifically wrote about that, and they made this an extra loud movie in theaters because they wanted that to be a part of the experience. And I remember watching it. I was in DC interning at the time, and I went to one of the theaters. I wanted to see it in IMAX, but they had it available in 70 millimeter film. And I don't know if I've ever seen a movie in actual film. So I went to see it, and surprisingly, I was a little, I don't want to say disappointed by film, but it wasn't as picturesque clear as like the digital that I'm used to. But what was very cool about it is it did give it this really cool visual tone to the film, and
like a little older.
Yeah, and having watched like the World War II channel and like all the old footage, it kind of had that kind of unique, like it actually kind of felt authentic because of the film version. But I just remember remarking how loud that theater was. And there's that opening scene where like they first get to the beach and they're lining up, and then they're like they yell something because basically an opposing bomber starts coming, like, and everybody gets down on the ground, and you see the camera's like laying on the sand a few feet away from the character who has his hands on his head, and then you see out in the distance some bombs drop, and then you hear and see the first one explode, and it's loud. Like,
and you hear it dropping.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I say it's a 6. The first one drops, and there's like 6 or 7 of these bombs.
Yeah.
And then after that, like the second bomb drops, and it's an 8. And you're like, okay, we're already at an 8 out of 10 loudness scale, and I've got 4 more bombs to go. And then it goes 10, and it goes 12, and it goes 14, and you're like, okay, this sound scale ends at 10, and it was just so loud. So I felt like they definitely deserved winning that stuff.
Yeah, because it was designed well. It wasn't just we need music, or we need sounds, let's throw it on there. It was designed a certain way.
Absolutely. So do you want to transition to talking about why the Oscars were so low this year?
Yes, I do. And I think a lot of it has to do personally with, like, I love how movies receive awards for things. Anything creative that's done, I love the fact that there are ways to show appreciation for somebody, something that is done. But when it comes to the Oscars, I told you I didn't watch it. And as much as I love movies, I don't really care much about the Oscars. And I think it's because I'm very much of I like listening to people that I know or that I trust, and a lot of it is through YouTube, like movie reviews, movie explanations. I like seeing what they think about movies more than the people I don't know, which is the people voting, the Academy, and all that stuff. I don't know these people. I don't know, why they like it for what reasons. But an example, me and my wife loved Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. We thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
But it's kind of like that group think. Like, I like finding someone else who likes the things I like, and so I kind of trust that person more. So I'm in a sense of I like listening to what people say from YouTube or whatever, that people I follow, but when I just don't know who they are, I don't really care what they think is the best.
Well, I think another issue about the Academy Awards is they're very prestigious, but they're not voted on by the public. They're voted on by the Academy, which are the industry insiders, actors, actresses, cinematographers, directors of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's essentially the Hollywood insiders.
And they would know what's the best, if they've seen every single movie that has been nominated.
True, and I think one of the things that I feel like for me is difficult is the fact of they don't give a wide release to the movies that they vote on. And now part of that is like, well, we're trying to support the small films, okay, which is great, but if they're good films, why are they so small? Exactly. If they're good films, give them to the general public because the general public loves good film. And so I don't understand where this like divide comes from, them eschewing away from popular films because they're popular and trying to support good films. Like, no, why doesn't Hollywood invest the time to make good films, popular films, and then they'll get the money, and then we get away from making like billion-dollar Transformers or billion-dollar trashy Last Jedis because it's poor story writing and like stupid stuff, or Suicide Squads or Justice Leagues, and be giving $600 million to Dunkirk, $600 million to Shape of Water. And I don't know if it's the time frame it's released in, because it's like Oscar bait time. Like Oscar season is always like when people are busy and between holidays.
Yeah, it's almost like...
Why don't you listen during summer when everyone goes to the movies?
Yeah.
People love to know what's going on with these Oscar movies. And for example, like me and my roommates, we really tried to see some of these Oscar movies, and they were so hard. They had like one showing a day, and I'm like, how am I supposed to go even see this movie and support it if you don't give me that capability?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's like a
and
chicken
seeing
egg.
and being the one, I've seen all of the Oscar-nominated movies or Oscar-winning movies.
I don't know anyone who's ever done that.
And
It's
it doesn't
so
mean
hard.
prestige either. It's not like you know how we say we like to see what the regular moviegoers think about movies and these things. But I feel like someone who is that into all of these things, I don't think they're the regular moviegoer, you know?
But see, that's what I don't get is if these are the best films, why are we prohibiting the public from enjoying and, viewing them?
Yeah, and why does the standard have to be what the minority is?
I completely agree. Get Out wasn't. So it's like they'll pick and choose what's popular.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like Black Panther sure as hell better be nominated next year for an Oscar because it deserves it on a lot of fronts.
Yeah.
Cinematography, they had a good cinematographer. I don't know if it was an Academy Award level cinematographer, but they had a good cinematographer. The director, Ryan Coogler, I think he did something very special.
Yeah.
Some of the acting, I thought was great.
Yeah.
I mean,
and keep in mind, like the public is not always right, but you have to. Here's what I think. How do you save the ratings? Well, in general, TV ratings have been going down. It's just a trend that comes with technology and with other forms of
cable TV.
entertainment. Yeah, cable TV.
but I mean, Netflix has been soaring.
Exactly.
But why? Because Netflix started providing content, and then the original content out the gate, they made sure we're going to make this movie quality.
Yeah.
I can't think of one TV show I've seen on Netflix that I felt like was, no offense, I feel like I'm always crapping on ABC TV quality, but I haven't seen a Netflix TV show that was as low budget as an ABC flick or as an ABC TV show.
Yeah.
Like Stranger Things, very well shot and directed. That is nowhere near the level of quality of like Scandal or How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, very, very well shot. Already talked about Altered Carbon. Even like Jessica Jones. Season 2 just dropped in March. This past week, every episode was directed by a woman. And they're all very intriguingly shot.
Yeah.
They look professional. They look real. And I feel like you could not put Jessica Jones on cable network. Not content-wise, but just for like its look.
Yeah.
It's too serious. It's too grungy. It's not enough to like catch people's attention with commercials.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why Netflix and a lot of these other companies are soaring because they're putting quality into their TV.
Yeah. And I would go as far as say, even if they put the Oscars on a streaming service, I still think the viewership will decline the way it's going right now. I think it would decline still because the whole point of them having more nominees or more things to award was so they could include movies that they wouldn't typically include, not so
Like
artsy.
Get Out, yeah.
Yeah. But recently they just, they still have kept it to, like, they have those extra spots, but they're still awarding them to the same types of movies, I'd say.
I would agree with that. And I know that they have a very interesting voting process, and it's like by popularity. It's not by...
Yeah.
it's kind of like the Electoral College. It's not really by like popular vote.
Yeah.
So it is limited by like who gets the initial highlights. But I think they need to make them more accessible because the public wants to get involved.
Exactly. Like, these days, everything's about more interaction. The more interaction you have, the more successful something can be. The less interaction. It's like the same reason why I can't learn from a teacher who's just lecturing all the time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All right, so to kind of wrap up the podcast, do we want to briefly do a Star Wars segment and then move on to upcoming movies or news?
What time? How long have we been?
Probably like an hour and a half. Yeah. We could also split up into 2 podcasts.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, too.
I mean, because we could just like break now, or even like part of the Oscars and be like Oscars / upcoming stuff.
Yeah, because I feel like if we do Oscars / upcoming stuff, then we could split it into 2 and have one earlier in the week, one later.
Yeah.
Or maybe both at the same time. Who knows?
No, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep going until we finish with this stuff, and then
Okay.
we have enough content for like 2.
Yeah. No, I'm done. Okay. So,
Star Wars time?
yeah. Do we want to try and come up with a name right now? I mean, I know we're kind of recording, but like, we can also cut it out.
Oh, man. Starcast. No. Cinemacast. Star Wars. We didn't have to say Cinemacast.
Wait, Star Wars segment.
Star Wars segment, yeah. Be like from the cockpit.
Hyperspace hype.
Ooh, that's good.
Galaxy far, far away. No. We can come up with it. We'll just say Star Wars segment for now.
Yeah.
All right, so starting off our inaugural Star Wars segment, there's quite a lot of news to talk about, so I'll let you start us off.
Yeah, and it's real funny because Star Wars puts out some of probably the most news per week, I'd say. Like, there's always something to talk about, and it's almost always exciting. So today we're going to talk about Jon Favreau getting his own Star Wars live-action series. Not directing. He will be choosing directors. He'll be the showrunner, producing it, which is real interesting news, and we'll talk about that. But as well as we'll talk about Star Wars Rebels and let's say the final 2 episodes or 3. Maybe just the finale and the implications into the future of Star Wars, because everything is canonized. This is ever since
the Disney bought Lucasfilm.
Yeah, Disney bought Lucasfilm. So we're seeing what they're pulling in from Legends, but what new stuff might affect future movies, and that's what's interesting. Han Solo's coming up in like no time. With all these projects coming up, let's take a little dive into probably Jon Favreau first. Now, if you know Jon Favreau, he directed Iron Man. He's Happy in the Marvel Universe. He's the character Happy. You see him all over the place, like in Spider-Man Homecoming as well. He's a likable guy. He's been around for a while, but he's been working with Disney for a while now on Marvel movies, as well as he's directing the Lion King.
That is starring John Oliver as Sasu and Beyonce as Nala.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, like, how could you get better casting than that?
Yeah, and Donald Glover.
Yes.
Who is making his rounds in, the Spider-Man, in Star Wars. And
Childish Gambino.
And now he's making his rounds in the old remakes, the Disney remakes where they remake them. So it's real fun to see these people working through Disney's ranks, but I'm interested to know what you think about Jon Favreau taking a live-action show-running approach instead of, like, not animated, not a movie, live-action TV show.
I'll be honest, I'm on the fence.
Yeah?
And I would even say I'm partially concerned. Mm-hmm. Only because of the way that Disney has been running their movies. They have released 3 movies, and I would argue to say, from my perspective, only one of them was good. One of them was acceptable, and another one was an acceptable, divisive, acceptable movie, but I don't think it was an acceptable Star Wars movie. Because it's not a Star Wars if you have 2 ships chasing each other. I'm sorry, that's not a war.
Yeah.
That is literally a chase.
A whole movie chase.
And if that's a spin-off story, sure. But when you give me a bigger space battle and your spin-off story than your 2 main movies, and that's what I don't get. Finally, we had an actual Star Wars battle with, like, planetary ships and crashing and shields and planetary shields. And Force Awakens, there was, like, 8 X-Wings the entire movie. Barely any of the movie was shot in space. Then you transition to The Last Jedi, and you have, like, 18 Star Destroyers, a giant ship that is so massively big it's improbable. 3 ships.
Yeah.
And that's the whole entire movie. And they don't even fight each other. One of them was just running away. Because somehow these bigger ships aren't as fast as a smaller ship. Doesn't make any sense. They have bigger engines. I mean, hello. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, space, there's no drag.
The bigger the engine, the faster you go. So, like, again, poor writing. And then at the end, they like hyperspace and destroy the other ships, while they let 2 ships before that just get blown up. You could have used 2 of those ships to blow up hyperspace style.
Yeah.
So like, I'm concerned based off of the quality and story of the previous 3 movies. It was as the fact that they fired the director and reshot 6 months worth of Star Wars Rogue One, which I actually liked. And recently, in the new Han Solo movie, they fired the directors and hired Ron Howard to reshoot almost the entire movie, or at least redo the whole movie with 6 months worth of reshoots.
Yeah.
So to say like, hey, now we're going to give somebody the reign to have a TV show based off of live people concerns me, because I feel like the only movie that they got the Star Wars tone right was Star Wars Rogue One. The other 2 of the new trilogy, I don't feel like have the right Star Wars tone. Even prequels, people have issues with, but they still feel like they're in the same universe as Star Wars. These new ones, to me, they don't feel like they're in Star Wars. They feel like they're about Star Wars. They don't feel like they're in Star Wars.
Now I'm going to ask you, because I feel like you've been following along with Star Wars Rebels more than I have.
Yes.
What they're introducing in Rebels and Clone Wars and the story building and the elements, like they're taking things from every corner of that galaxy and throwing it in and expanding upon the Force.
Yep.
Do you wish that Dave Filoni and the Star Wars story group had more control in the cinematic universe?
Absolutely. Because that's the thing I don't understand, is that they quote unquote say they have a writer's room, but Gareth Edwards, I always get him and the other guy mixed up. Gareth Edwards did Rogue One. Rian Johnson, yeah. Rian Johnson, he wrote the script.
Yeah.
For 7. Why did he write the script? The script should have already been written for him. Also, why are they starting a trilogy without having the stories completely done? That's why he killed Snoke. And J.J. Abrams is like, what the heck? I just made that guy.
Yeah.
And now you killed off my main villain. If I was J.J. Abrams, I would be pissed. Because I'm coming in to close out this trilogy. No one is left. There's no controversy. And there's nothing to look forward to or to speculate on.
Yeah. Which goes on to what you're saying. What we had a problem with last time is overarching story, and
There is none right now.
Yeah, the story group's main purpose is to keep canon, and anything else not, that legends, it doesn't count. So when we come into the movies, granted, these are people who are not watching the TV shows very often.
This needs to be a more streamlined version of this overarching story.
Yeah, and people aren't watching or reading the comic books.
Yep.
But the story group has proven with Dave Filoni that they're introducing these things in Rebels that are so interesting, like what we'll get into, and in Clone Wars, which I really loved a lot.
Clone Wars was good.
Yeah, there's so many things that I wish they pulled into the movies, but they haven't, because typically the writers are not the story group.
Which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
That's their biggest moneymaker.
Yeah.
That's their biggest canonized or canon content maker.
Yeah, and I want, granted, there's a lot of gears behind the making of everything, but
I just think it's bad management.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy
needs to step up her game, because I'm not satisfied.
Step up your game, or let Dave Filoni pick up where you can't produce, basically.
Well, producing is all about money and coordinating.
Yeah.
But there should be one person in charge of the story group, whether it's Lawrence Kasdan or Dave Filoni. But you can't be making up a script for each movie as it comes along, unless it's like even with the spin-off stories, it needs to perfectly fit inside the canon that they've already come up with.
Yeah.
And that's just where I'm uncomfortable with the idea of a live action. And Jon Favreau, he's had some good ones, he's had some bad ones. He did Iron Man 1. I swear he did the other 2 Iron Mans, which had issues. He did The Lion King, or he's doing The Lion King, which should be great if they do it with music.
Yeah.
He did Jungle Book, which I honestly wasn't a huge fan of. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It was just kind of there.
Yeah, it was okay. Like, it's fine.
He also did that married couples vacation one. Like, he's just kind of like a there director. So to have him showrunning also concerns me. He's never showrun before. J.J. Abrams has showrun. Yeah. And showrunning is harder than directing a movie. And that means that you have to have this overarching idea. And I don't know if he's that passionate about Star Wars.
This is why I will be most comfortable with it if he goes out and says, yeah, we've written a story, or I'm writing a story.
And I know what story I want to tell.
Yes, with Dave Filoni and the story group. With, not underneath him, equal with him.
Sure. So those things just give me pause.
Yeah.
About its tone and its story and its relevance. Now, if we're talking about like the Double D's we talked about last time about them getting their ability to do a Star Wars movie, they can have all my money because they've proven to me that they can do anything and that they're passionate and that they're dedicated.
Yeah. And they know how to deal with source material, whereas in Star Wars has so much source material that if they're going to adapt something
or just make something up, at least pick cool stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm the happiest with transitioning to Rebels is that they didn't kill off Thrawn. Thrawn is one of the coolest characters in all of Star Wars canon, and I'm not like that much of a nerd having like read anything, but the character that they brought into this TV show, he's so cool. He's an alien species that we usually don't see alien species in management positions in Star Wars.
Yeah, because
they're usually
the Empire is basically
humans.
Humanist. It's very much against other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's blue. He's got these red eyes, and he's always calm and collected. He's kind of like a vampire, but he's a statistician.
Kind of like Tarkin.
Kind of.
In a sense.
Very similar to Tarkin, but more oppressive, younger, and more calculating. And he can out-calculate everyone, and he takes trophies from all of his conquerors, or all of his wins, or all the people that he's chasing. Yeah. Very, very cool, very, very interesting character. He's been the main villain for the last 2 seasons of Rebels, and people were worried that, like, hey, if you kill him off in Rebels, he might not be able to show up in any of the canonized films because, you know, being an alien, like, he can live as long as he wants.
Yeah.
And so at the end of this episode of the series finale, we're told that he survived, as well as our main character, Ezra Bridger, who is a young Jedi. And one of the other issues is that they brought Ahsoka back, Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. She was Anakin's apprentice, who got expelled from the Jedi Order. So she's no longer technically a Jedi.
For wrongful reasons, too.
Yeah.
Showing more of the corruption of the Jedi, of course.
Exactly, which is interesting. So she's technically not a Jedi, which was interesting because people were like, well, she has to die because there's no other Jedi in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But technically she's not a Jedi. I mean, I guess they call her a gray Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, she's Force sensitive and she uses the Force, but she's not.
For all intents and purposes, she's a Jedi without the name.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. That she has lightsabers, that she has the power, she uses white lightsabers.
Good person.
And great person, great character, very, very ethical, very, very inspirational, very experienced. And they brought her back in season 2 of Rebels as a recurring character. And Rebels happens between episode 3 and episode 4.
And we see some hints in Rogue One.
Yeah, and so some of these characters even show up in Rogue One. And so that was the biggest issue is if you're writing these new storylines, these people never show up in the main trilogy, so they at some point all have to die Rogue One style. Just because it wouldn't make sense for Jyn Erso to survive, but then not show up anywhere in Return for Jedi or for the Revenge of the Sith. Attack of the... what's number 2?
Attack of the Clones.
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, Empire Strikes Back. Oh, yeah, that one.
Empire Strikes Back. And so she came back, and then we thought that she might have died in the season finale of 2 when she fights Darth Vader. And we learn in season 4 of Rebels that she actually doesn't die. She's saved by Ezra Bridger because of some crazy Jedi Temple time room that allows him to, affect events in the past, which is interesting, which means that they're bringing in time travel into the Star Wars universe.
Which I have something I wanted to ask you about that. Whenever you get to it, about the world between worlds.
Yeah. So just to wrap up about Ahsoka, we thought she would have to die as well as Ezra have to die. So by the time Luke shows up, there aren't these 2 extra Jedi running around. And by the end of the series of Rebels, we found out that Ahsoka is still alive because Ezra saved her, and she shows up at the end of the episode. And the series tells us from the narration that Ezra also survived.
Which is, in my opinion, awesome because the galaxy is big.
And it's cool. And I mean, I like the idea of there being like more scattered Jedi that we didn't know about because it gives you more stories to bridge off of.
Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't the only Jedi left just sitting in Tatooine.
Correct. So, which I think is cool and interesting, also because I like any of those characters more than any one of our new trilogy. I would love for the First Order to blow up Finn and Rey and everyone into a ship and then be like, okay, well, Ahsoka's showing up in her super cool regal ship because she's just the coolest character. But that's interesting to me, that we essentially have a MCU / a Marvel TV universe fighting the cinematic universe the same way we have the Star Wars cinematic universe fighting the Star Wars TV universe.
Yeah.
The storylines aren't the same. The tone's not the same. One's way more intricate and dedicated to the source material with cooler characters, and the other is just kind of there. And so for me, I just need to know how they're going to bridge those two because one's way better than the other.
Yeah.
And the movies would benefit from bringing in these other characters because as soon as you bring in a TV show character into a movie, you're encouraging everybody who sees that movie to go back and watch the TV show.
Yeah.
Like, they're self-promoting.
Like, for me, I don't know how likely it is, but I really want Ahsoka to show up in...
She's the coolest Jedi we've had since Anakin.
Yes. And honestly, if you want to know how cool Anakin is, watch Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah, he's a much better character.
So much more fleshed out. And so that's why I wish those who are in charge of that stuff can have more say.
Yeah.
Now, what I wanted to ask you about World Between
Time travel,
Worlds.
yeah.
Time travel in a sense, but not controllable, I don't think. As the kind of those moments where he's in a world between worlds and
you can alter the past.
yeah, and you don't know, and he like mistakenly enters into it, right?
No, he enters into it on purpose.
On purpose.
He didn't know what it was, but he
Yeah.
purposefully enters.
So it's this pocket of
Space-time with different
space-time,
bridges,
yeah.
and you can kind of find different portals that open up to different periods in the past.
and I believe he comes face to face with Palpatine in a way.
He does. Palpatine tries to interact with him while he's in the space-time
Yeah.
bridge.
Watching some of these videos recapping those moments, for some reason I got drawn to the moment where Rey is on Ahch-To on the island and she goes down into the dark pit and she comes to face with this mirror thing and somehow, mentally enters or something, enters in a weird way and has a weird time-space scene where she's asking, who her parents were.
Okay.
Now, I'm 100% sure that isn't a world between worlds, but that's the kind of thing I would like to see tied in. Maybe not this in specific, but like a cool thing like that. Like it would make, you could add things like from Rebels into the movies in ways that...
Well, they've actually done that. They introduced the Hammerhead Corvette from the no longer canon into the TV show, into Rebels, that a year later showed up in a significant way in Rogue One. And similarly, one of the characters, the Jedi who trains Ezra, flies through space using the Force, that 2 years later shows up in The Force, or The Last Jedi, which personally I hated, but at least they kind of test out some of these ideas to see if people absolutely hate it. I like the idea of time travel with the Force. I feel like the new movies haven't quite got the Force right. I thought Last Jedi was better than Force Awakens.
Yeah, it adds some explanation, but in another
But they still haven't
way.
gotten the fact that it's a Force that exists. Part of it is intertwined with belief and religion, but we've lost the dark side aspect of it, right?
Yeah. It's kind of just a...
and just like who can wield it, and we've kind of lost like the history that like there's this huge history of like, the people working on it, and Rebels really kind of touches on it's very yin and yang, that there cannot be dark without the light.